My name is Jim, and if someone had told me before that I would get into pottery, I would have laughed in their face. Really? Me? A potter? I'm more of a beer and TV kind of guy, not vases and pots. But life is an unpredictable thing. Take my wife, Stephanie, for example. She's always coming up with some crazy ideas. One day it's yoga, the next it's vegetarianism, and now pottery. And it would be fine if it was just her, but she also dragged her mom, Evelyn, into it. Now they both keep talking about clay, firing, and glazing, and I sit there nodding with a smart look on my face, as if I understand any of it. To be honest, I was even glad when Stephanie got sick with the flu right before the first class. Well, not that I wished illness on her, but, one less problem. But no such luck. Stephanie made such a tragedy out of it, she could go to the theater to act. She just couldn't allow her mother to go to the class alone. And then it dawned on her, "Jim, honey, why don't you keep Mom company? Please do it for me." My jaw dropped. Me? Pottery? Seriously? My hands grow out of the wrong place. What kind of support could I be? But try arguing with Stephanie. She's a hell of a devil's advocate, that one. Anyway, I had no choice. I had to get ready for the journey. At least I didn't put on an apron, and thank God for that. So that's how I ended up in this studio. Clay, pottery wheels, kilns everywhere. And a bunch of ladies of various ages who looked at me like I was an alien. No wonder the only man in the whole crowd. But Evelyn, I must give her credit, welcomed me like family, hugged me, kissed me, chattered about how glad she was that I had decided to join the art. I just smiled stupidly and nodded, not knowing where to put my hands. Oh, I can feel it's going to be fun. Well, or at least educational. The main thing is not to lose face in front of these ladies, and not to make some indecent figure out of clay. Although, who am I kidding? The temptation is great. The first class started with theory. The teacher, a pretty middle-aged lady, enthusiastically talked about types of clay, molding techniques, and other nonsense. I honestly tried to understand, but my thoughts kept running off somewhere else. Evelyn, on the other hand, listened with glowing eyes. She literally absorbed every word, nodding from time to time and scribbling something in her notebook. What an irrepressible woman. But finally, we moved on to practice. We were each given a huge chunk of clay and told to mold something simple. A bowl or a mug. Yeah, easier said than done. I twirled the clay in my hands, trying to figure out how to approach it. It was cold, slippery, and kept trying to wriggle out, just like some of my exes. Out of the corner of my eye, I noticed that Evelyn was doing much better. Her fingers fluttered over the clay, shaping it, smoothing out the irregularities. It looked damn mesmerizing. "Hey, Jim, what is that, an alien you're making there?" Evelyn's voice suddenly rang out over my ear. I flinched and looked at my creation. Indeed, it looked more like some abstraction than a bowl. You could send it to the Museum of Modern Art. "No, this is how I envisioned it," I mumbled, averting my eyes. "Like an alternative vision." Evelyn snorted and shook her head. And then she suddenly moved closer to me and covered my hands with hers. "Let me show you how it's done." And she began to guide my fingers, helping to give the clay the right shape. It was strange, exciting. Her touch was so soft, but confident, and her face was so close that I could see every wrinkle in the corners of her eyes. We fiddled like that until the end of the class. Evelyn patiently explained, showed, and in the end, I even managed to make something like a crooked but recognizable mug. Progress! "Well, that's much better," Evelyn smiled, looking over my creation. "And you said you were hopeless." "It's all thanks to you," I blurted out without thinking, and then felt embarrassed. "I mean, you're a good teacher." Evelyn just laughed and patted me on the shoulder. And suddenly, I felt so warm and good, as if I hadn't molded a clay mug, but at least the Venus de Milo. We drove home in high spirits. I chattered incessantly, sharing my impressions, and Evelyn listened and smiled. I even thought I saw pride in her eyes. Pride for me. Damn, maybe these classes weren't such a bad idea after all. Look at all the benefits. I practiced my hands and made my mother-in-law happy. All that's left is to wait for my mug to be fired in the kiln. And then I'll become a real pottery master. Well, or just a good son-in-law. Not bad either, if you ask me. Classes went on as usual. Evelyn and I diligently attended the studio twice a week, gradually mastering new techniques and tricks. And you know what? I even started to get good at it. Of course, I was far from Evelyn. Her works turned out to be real works of art, elegant, thought out to the smallest detail. And mine, well, let's just say they had character, crooked, imperfect, but unique. Stephanie, by the way, appreciated my new hobby. When I brought home the first batch of my masterpieces, she almost shed a tear of tenderness, said I did great and she was proud of me. Damn, I never thought I'd be so happy to be praised for clay pots. But there you go. It's nice when your efforts are noticed. But the main thing is that all these classes brought me and Evelyn much closer. We became a real team, planning new projects together, discussing designs, experimenting with colors and textures. And the more time we spent together, the more attached I became to this amazing woman. Don't get me wrong, I loved Stephanie, very much. But with Evelyn, everything was different. With her, I felt free, light, as if I had thrown off the burden of everyday worries. We could chat for hours about anything in the world, from the latest news to philosophical questions, and each such conversation seemed to open up a new facet of her personality for me. And Evelyn knew how to listen too. Just sit next to me, look into my eyes and listen, absorbing every word. Even when I was talking nonsense, she didn't interrupt or judge. She only smiled softly and sometimes inserted apt comments. My God, I didn't even talk to my wife as frankly as I did with my mother-in-law. It was weird, wrong, but damn nice. One day, we stayed late at the studio. Everyone had already left and we just couldn't stop talking. And that's when I first noticed how Evelyn looked at me. There was so much warmth, tenderness, and something else in her eyes. Something that sent shivers down my spine and made my stomach flutter, as if she could see right through me, to my very soul. "Jim," she suddenly said quietly, covering my hand with hers, "I'm so glad you agreed to come here with me. You mean a lot to me." For some reason, those words made my throat tighten. I swallowed and smiled weakly, not knowing what to say. And then, I don't know how, I suddenly found that we were sitting unacceptably close, touching thighs, shoulders, breathing the same air. Okay, stop. Danger zone. I need to wrap it up quickly before I do something stupid. She's my mother-in-law, after all, not just anybody. And my wife is waiting at home. I abruptly pulled away and jumped to my feet, muttering something about the late hour and things to do. Evelyn blinked in surprise and also got up. On her face flashed disappointment? Resentment? Hell if I know. "Yes, of course, it's late. Let's go," she said in a flat voice. And we started to pack up. Silently, carefully avoiding looking at each other. The atmosphere, just a minute ago so warm and cozy, suddenly became tense and prickly. The ride home was also quiet, each lost in thought, and I couldn't get Evelyn's look out of my mind. And what I felt at that moment. Could it be? No, that's crazy. It can't be. Just my imagination playing tricks on me, nothing more. Tired after a long day, that's why I'm seeing things. But somewhere deep in my soul, a thought was already brewing. A persistent, frightening, exciting thought. What if? The next few classes went quite strangely. Evelyn and I tried to act as usual, joking, chatting, molding another masterpiece. But something had imperceptibly changed. Now every conversation, every glance of ours was filled with hidden subtext, tension, anticipation of something inevitable. I caught myself admiring Evelyn more and more often. How she leans over the potter's wheel. How she bites her lip when the work doesn't go well. How she blows a stubborn strand of hair off her forehead and frowns in concentration. Hell, I even started paying attention to her figure. How her still slender hips hugged her jeans. How her breasts gently swayed under her linen blouse. It was wrong. Immoral. I'm a married man, for God's sake. And here I am, ogling my own mother-in-law like a lustful dog. We had to stop these games, before it was too late, before I did something stupid that I would regret for the rest of my life. But I couldn't. I just damn well couldn't. It was as if some unknown force was pulling me to Evelyn, making me seek her company, catch her smiles and touches. And she was good too. Now she was openly flirting with me. She'd touch my hand as if by accident, or give me a meaningful look from under her lashes. And all this, with an innocent face as if she had nothing to do with it. I was going crazy, torn between desire and duty, passion and common sense. I knew I was playing with fire, but I couldn't help myself. And then something happened that turned my whole life upside down, once and for all. It was late in the evening, Evelyn and I had stayed at the studio longer than usual. We got carried away with a new project, didn't notice how time flew by. And just as I was about to leave, Evelyn suddenly called out to me, "Jim, wait, I need to tell you something." I froze, feeling my heart skip a beat. By the tone of her voice, I knew something important was about to happen, something that would change everything. Evelyn walked right up to me. She looked me straight in the eye, and her gaze held such a storm of emotions that it took my breath away. "I can't hide it anymore," she said softly but firmly. "Jim, I love you. Have for a long time. And I don't care that you're my daughter's husband. I don't care about all these conventions. I want to be with you." The ground fell out from under my feet. Just like that, in an instant, all my fears and doubts took flesh, became reality. I wanted to object, to say it was crazy, that we have no right. But my tongue seemed to stick to the roof of my mouth, and Evelyn kept looking at me, with hope, fear, adoration, and I gave in, stopped fighting with myself, just pulled her to me and kissed her, greedily, fervently, as if for the last time. Then everything rushed on, as if in a delirium. Hot embraces, feverish caresses, whispers and moans. We made love right there in the empty studio. Among the unfinished pots and pitchers, it was madness, sweet, bitter, wrong. But we couldn't stop anymore. The dam had burst, and we were flooded with a stream of forbidden feelings. I don't know how long it lasted, maybe minutes, maybe hours. I lost track of time. There were only us, two entwined bodies, two hearts beating in unison. And then it was over, as suddenly as it had begun. We lay on the floor, breathing heavily and staring at the ceiling, and we realized that we had done something irreparable. "My God, Jim, what have we done?" Evelyn whispered, and there were tears in her voice. "How are we going to live now?" I didn't know what to say. There was a hollow emptiness in my head. Only one thought was beating like a bird in a cage. What will I tell Stephanie? How will I look my wife in the eye after what I've done with her mother? I'm a traitor, a liar, a fucking piece of shit. And now I would have to live with that burden until the end of my days. But you know what's the worst part? Even realizing the monstrosity of my act, I couldn't bring myself to regret what had happened. Because for the first time in many years, I felt truly alive, free, loved. And that scared the hell out of me. For the next couple of weeks, Evelyn and I carefully avoided each other. We ran away from classes early, citing urgent matters, anything to avoid being alone. But the tension didn't go away. Every meeting of ours was like torture, to see your loved one and not be able to touch, to talk about trifles when you want to scream from pain. Stephanie, of course, noticed that something was wrong with me. She kept asking what was the matter. Even suspected, for God's sake, that I was having an affair on the side, if only she knew the real picture. I laughed it off, putting it down to fatigue and stress. I would kiss my wife before bed and make empty promises that everything would be fine soon. Meanwhile, I was slowly going crazy. Sooner or later something had to happen, to explode, and I was afraid of that day like fire. I knew I wouldn't be able to resist Evelyn if she just beckoned. But reality outdid all my fears. It gave me such a surprise that you could just stand there, or fall down. One evening, when I was gloomily poking at my dinner with a fork and staring blankly at the TV, Stephanie burst into the house, pale, disheveled, with traces of tears on her cheeks. "It's over, Jim! Divorce!" she blurted out, throwing her purse on the floor. I was stunned. What the hell? Divorce? Why all of a sudden? We seemed to be getting along, living in perfect harmony. At least I tried to create that illusion. Honey, what's wrong? What happened?" I asked cautiously, feeling everything inside me grow cold with a bad premonition. Stephanie sniffled and angrily wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. And then she looked at me, with such pain and disappointment that I involuntarily cringed. "Don't even say you don't understand. I know everything, Jim, about you and Mom. How could you? How could you both do this to me?" It was as if the ground had fallen out from under my feet. There it was. It had happened. My worst nightmare had come true. Listen, I can explain everything," I mumbled, feverishly searching for words, although what the hell kind of explanation could there be? "Don't bother," Stephanie cut me off sharply. "I saw you at the studio. I decided to surprise you, to come early, and in the end, I was the one who got the surprise. She smirked bitterly, biting her lips, and everything inside me collapsed. Oh God, not this. Stephanie shouldn't have found out. Not like this. I'm sorry. Forgive me, was all I could squeeze out, lowering my head. I didn't mean to. It just happened. It just happened? And that's all you can say? Stephanie's voice broke into a scream. You were sleeping with my mother behind my back, and now you say it just happened? Each of her words hit me in the face, cut me to the core, because it was the truth, the cruel, unsightly truth. That's it, Jim. Enough. I'm leaving, right now, Stephanie said wearily. You can keep your precious Evelyn. Choke on each other, both of you. With those words, she spun around and flew out the door, and I just stood there in the middle of the room, stunned, crushed, destroyed. That was it. A collapse, complete and irrevocable. I had lost my wife, my family, my self-respect. And for what? For a fleeting passion. A short-lived happiness in the arms of a woman old enough to be my mother? I collapsed on the couch and buried my face in my hands. My head was empty and hollow. Only the pain was pulsing in my temples, dull, hopeless. And for some reason, Evelyn's face kept appearing before my eyes. Her laughing eyes, her tender smile, hands covered in traces of clay. What will happen to us now? How to live on when everything around is crumbling? Will we find the strength to be together despite everything? Or will this connection remain our biggest secret? And our most terrible mistake? I don't know. I just don't know. Right now I can only think about one thing. I betrayed the person closest to me, and I will probably never be able to forgive myself for that. The next few days turned into hell for me. Stephanie filed for divorce, moved out to a rented apartment, refused to answer calls and messages. I walked around as if in a fog, made little mistakes at work, suffered from foolishness at home. Loneliness and guilt were eating me alive. Evelyn also disappeared from the radar, probably trying to mend her relationship with her daughter, or just didn't want to upset the wound once again. I missed her, terribly, to the point of physical pain. But I understood that now was not the best time to bother her with confessions and sorting out our relationship. First, we needed to clean up the mess we had made. My friends, of course, quickly figured out what was going on. They sympathized, encouraged me, poured me whiskey. Like it happens to everyone, Jim, it will pass. I thanked them and kept silent. No one knew the true backstory of our divorce, and thank God for that. So a week passed, and then another. I was slowly beginning to come to terms with the new reality, getting used to being alone, to an empty bed, to the fact that my family life had collapsed like a house of cards. And when I had almost accepted the inevitable, a bolt from the blue struck, in the literal damn it sense. It was Saturday, and I was half-heartedly puttering around in the garage, trying to occupy myself with something. And then it started to rain. And so hard, as if the heavens had opened up and poured all their moisture reserves onto the earth. I cursed and ran to close the gate, and then I saw her, Evelyn. She was standing by her car, soaked to the bone, and looking at me, with challenge, desperation, hope. Jim? That was all she could breathe out when I ran up. I can't do this anymore, without you. A lump rose in my throat. My eyes stung with rising tears. I silently hugged her, pulled her to me, buried my face in her wet hair. Me too, Kathy. I missed you like hell. We stood like that, not caring about the rain, just held each other in our arms, afraid to let go, afraid that if we let go, this fragile bond would break. Forever. Jim, listen. Evelyn pulled away slightly and looked into my face. I talked to Stephanie, tried to explain everything, told her that I love you, truly, not as a son-in-law, but as a man. My heart raced with joy and fear at the same time. And what did she say? Evelyn sighed. She doesn't understand. She blames me, says I ruined her family, betrayed her as a mother. I clenched my teeth. Yes, that's right. We're both good. Fucking wreckers. But you know, Jim, Evelyn continued, and there was steel in her voice, I'm tired of pretending. I'm tired of living a lie. Yes, what we did is horrible. Yes, we've hurt someone close to us. But don't we deserve a chance at happiness? Aren't our feelings real? I was silent, stunned by her words, and Evelyn suddenly took my hands in hers and squeezed them tightly. Jim, I love you. I love you like I've never loved anyone before, and I want to be with you, no matter what, even if it means going against everyone. Are you ready to take the risk, ready to challenge fate for us? My head was spinning. This was crazy. Pure madness. Evelyn and I, a couple, officially, society will tear us to shreds. But looking into her shining eyes, hearing the passionate determination in her voice, I suddenly realized, to hell with society. To hell with condemnation, sidelong glances, gossip behind our backs. Isn't this what I wanted all these days? Isn't this what I dreamed about? Falling asleep and waking up, to be with Evelyn, to love her, to shout about my love to the whole world. Yes, Kathy! Yes, damn it! I blurted out, feeling my heart pounding with delight. I want to be with you, and to hell with the whole world. We'll make it, together. Evelyn squealed joyfully and threw her arms around my neck, and I picked her up and spun her around. Wet, happy, crazy. It was like a leap into the unknown, like flying to the sun on fiery wings. Everything inside me was singing and trembling with anticipation of something new, magical, special. I knew it wouldn't be easy. A long and thorny path lay ahead of us. Sidelong glances, gossip, misunderstanding from loved ones, especially from Stephanie. I don't know if she'll ever be able to forgive us, to accept our choice. But I believed we could do it. We would withstand any trials, because true love is worth fighting for, until your last breath. And now, holding the most incredible woman in the world, hearing her laughter through the noise of the rain, I was absolutely crystal clear happy, because I realized the main thing. Home is not a place, it's a person, the one with whom you feel good anywhere in the world, with whom you can be yourself, without masks and pretense. And my home is Evelyn, my guiding star, my kindred spirit, the woman for whom I am ready to turn the world upside down. So brace yourself, world. Jim and Kathy are coming to conquer you, together hand in hand, and in spite of all storms. As for Stephanie, well, let's hope she understands, forgives, and maybe even be happy for us someday in a decade or two. God bless the pottery. Who would have thought that such a romantic story would come out of a piece of clay, almost like in Ghost, only with a happier ending? Although I'm far from Patrick Swayze, of course. Well, never mind. Evelyn is happy with me as I am. She can't back out now. And that, my dear friends, is how one chance encounter turned my whole life upside down. Who said that after 40 all the interesting things are over? That's bullshit. Love can strike at any moment, and it can blow your mind completely, even if the object of your passion is your own mother-in-law. So don't swear off it, friends, and don't mess with clay, or you'll get hooked, and then you're a goner. Take care. Jim, also known as the model son-in-law, the wayward husband, and the part-time potter lover, is officially leaving the building. Did you like this story? Let us know in the comments what you liked. Subscribe to our storytelling podcast. Also, don't forget to like and ring the bell so you don't miss more interesting stories. See you soon.